So what can we do? Some years back, I started suggesting that people consider, if they have an afternoon crash in energy, that they delay their morning caffeine intake for 90 minutes after waking. Some years after that, an academic review was published saying, well, there's really no evidence that that specific practice is necessary, but I still think, and I stand by the fact that it can be very useful for those that experience an afternoon crash. Why? Well, two things. First of all, by delaying caffeine for the first 60 to 90 minutes after waking, there's an interesting phenomenon whereby even though you are out of bed and walking around, you're not asleep. If you don't block those adenosine receptors, there's still clearance of adenosine occurring, in part because
it's like residual rest.
You're sort of still asleep.
Wow.
The other thing that works remarkably well to clear out residual adenosine is upon waking, if you don't feel rested enough, to do something I've talked also a lot about, which is another one of these zero-cost tools that has a growing amount of impressive science to support it, which is non-sleep deep rest, or NSDR, also called Yoga Nidra, which is its proper name. The ancient practice is Yoga Nidra, so we want to be fair to its proper naming. A 10 or 20 or 30-minute Yoga Nidra, or NSDR if you prefer, done upon waking, but before getting out of bed, or maybe you go into the living room and put on your headphones or listen to an NSDR script. They're available all over the internet, done by me, done by a woman named Kelly Boys, who has a really lovely voice. If you prefer a woman's voice, it's actually the one I typically use. You will emerge from that feeling much more rested. Now, Dr. Matt Walker himself and I are collaborating on a project to evaluate how NSDR impacts brain states to see if it actually mimics sleep. There's some beautiful studies already published out of Scandinavia showing that longer Yoga Nidra type practices, non-sleep deep rest, can replenish dopamine stores in an area of the brain called the basal ganglia, which prepares you for mental and physical action. So this is a very well-established tool from the sort of yogic perspective. It's a tool that's gaining increasing scientific evidence, and for everybody I know that has tried this, who reports back to me about it, it's a remarkably energetically replenishing exercise that requires no payment, no nothing, just 10, 20, or 30-minute NSDR. Now, what could be happening in that state? In that state, the body is still, the mind is active, which mimics very closely rapid eye movement sleep. So the test that Matt Walker and I are doing, the experiment, is to see, is having your body completely still but your mind active able to clear adenosine stores in the same way that being deeply asleep is? My guess is that it's not the same, but that it might be a midway effect. That's the hypothesis. We could be wrong. I look forward to seeing the results.